Lagos. Apologies for, you know, standing behind schedule. But as you know, technology can sometimes just decide to make it a little crazy. But you're welcome to Business Hub here on Smooth 98.1. My name is Joy Ure. And on Business Hub today, we're going to be talking about oil prices. Yes, I know we touched on that yesterday. You're wondering, these oil prices, when are we going to get the exact relief that we've been hoping for? Well, scoot closer, scoot closer. It's that time for us to get all the information that we need. And talking about information, like I said, it's oil prices, why are they still high, and how are SMEs dealing with things. And it's going to be a deeper dive today, especially seeing that some SMEs are currently complaining about a lot of things. But hey, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be having this conversation alone. You as well are part of the conversation. But I also have my guest who is joining me virtually in the person of Prosper Olusola. She is a research analyst at Afrinvest Research and Consulting. Good evening, Purpose, and good to have you with me.
Hi, good evening, Joy. It's Prosper. Thank you.
Oh, Prosper. Okay. Okay. I beg your pardon. Prosper. Okay, so Prosper is going to tell us how we can be prosperous. Okay, Lagos, I would appreciate your contribution as well. Your questions, your observations as an SME. How's it been for you so far, especially with this rising prices in the oil, in fuel? I know once it rises, it never stops there. It has a trickle down effect on everything that we do. So it is important to talk about this. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of a conversation, and that has to do with energy. Can we point to energy as the number one highest cost that, and when I say energy, well, basically power. And we know that it can be either through solar, you can have a diesel engine, you can have a fuel, but one way, shape, or form can be gas as well. One way, shape, or form, we're talking about energy and how it is that it affects SMEs. Now, talking about that, would you say that that's the highest cost that an SME has to face, especially here in Nigeria?
Thank you, Joy. Before I say yes or no, let's just provide a bit of context. So
Context
according
matters.
to
Context matters.
exactly. So according to the Rock Mountain Institute, they conducted a survey in 2024 on
Okay.
SMEs and what accounts for a chunk load of OPEX by these SMEs. So they found out that over 40% of the cost was borne by energy prices for SMEs. And
Okay.
in some, depending on the industry, it goes as high as 60% thereabout. Now let's break this down. Let's bring this home to the average Nigerian. Currently, we know that the alternative source of wealth that is mostly affordable, accessible by most SMEs is the traditional means, which is the fossil fuel, you say the PMS.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the current prevailing price of PMS, say about 1,114 naira currently. Now let's
Huh?
bring it down
Are you
to con
sure?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You must be getting it cheaper, but I won't interrupt. I'll let you
Oh,
go on.
that's just on an average, you understand? So I don't
Okay.
really to paint my
Straight.
scenario. Yeah.
Right, right.
So, and if an SME is going to buy a liter of fuel at that
Mm-hmm.
price, now let's give and take. The business owner is expected to start operation, say 8 a.m. on a particular day and
Mm-hmm.
close by 5 p.m. So that's about 10 hours, give or take. But the business is situated in an environment where it has epileptic power supply, which
Hmm.
then means that there is a very huge problem, given the fact that it is now a business that has to depend solely on, energy, electricity to run operations and all of that. Now, the
Right.
business owner now says, oh, I cannot really afford to run my generating set or my alternative power supply for 10 hours. Okay, let's do 4 hours. And then I need to buy a liter at 1,114 naira. So on a daily basis, on an average, the business spends about 7,000 naira just on energy. So to answer your question, yes, energy accounting for OPEX costs accounts for, let's say, the highest, which in some cases amounts to almost 60% of OPEX that a business can incur, for in this case in point, an SME. So yes.
Now, when you actually compute that and put that as numbers, 7,000 is a lot when you think about how, well, relatively, let me put this relatively, but if it's for a small business that is just trying to get its way in
Yeah,
and you're having to
exactly.
spend 7,000 naira, how much of it is your profit how much profit are you making in that day to account for that?
Exactly. You've not talked about other costs of that adds up to, cost of the overall general cost of, running that business. For example, you are also in a catering business. You have to source for raw materials, you have to pay staff costs, you have to pay other miscellaneous costs along the way, running costs and all of that. This is just 1% or just a fraction of what, makes up the total cost. And it's already accumulating or accounting for as high as, say, 60% in some cases. So it's a lot.
I'm just computing and that's giving me a headache. Now I see how you mean when you say, okay, it is the highest. But if we had to look at renewable energy, the upfront cost, truth be heard, is usually seen as a humongous one. But is there a way that that could be a way to mitigate this power situation?
Okay. Yes. Um, like you said from your question, the upfront cost of then transitioning to, say, another alternative source of energy, case in
Mm,
point, solar system, renewable energy. The
mm,
upfront cost at the initial stage of transitioning may be
mm.
quite on the high side. However, it is just going to be in the near term. What do I mean? So let's
Hi, Prosper, you still there? You are frozen. I'm guessing the network
sorry.
is okay. All
I
right.
can hear you, Joy.
Okay. Good to have you back. You were frozen for a few seconds.
Oh, I could hear you clearly. All right.
Okay.
So could you just tell me where you stop hearing me from so I continue from there?
Okay, you were talking about breaking it down, basically, the cost of renewable energy and
Okay.
yeah, basically the
So
first
I said I was
tranche
just
of
going
the
to
expenditure.
piggyback on my initial analogy. Now,
Okay.
I said yes, the initial cost of, transitioning to the alternative source, which is solar system, would be high, albeit in the short term. Because when you look at what is the cost of running the what's it called now, the generating set, in the long run,
Hmm.
you find out that in a space of 1 year plus, you would be able to what's it called, make back the payback period if you were running on a solar system and you decide to, go in and get a solar system as an alternative source of powering your business. So
Okay.
let me put more context to this. So you're going to
Important.
pay, you're going to use at least a minimum of 7,000 naira to
Oh,
get a
oh,
generating set. It's going to
okay.
cost you about, say, 300,000 naira. Then when you look at fueling that generating set
Mm,
say on a period on an annual basis, is going to about 1.4 million naira. And then you run that generating set for the whole year. It's going to develop some faults. It has to go through wear and tear. And you factor
right.
in repair costs, maintenance, about, let's say, 60,000. So overall, ultimately, on just powering your business, say using the traditional method, it's
Hmm.
costing you about almost 2 million naira. And then when you look at it and compare it vis-a-vis a very portable or a a minimum level solar system that you just need to, power some essential services in your
Organization.
business, it's going to cost you within the range of, say, 1.5 to 2 million naira. So by and large, yes, at the
Hmm.
initial stage, it may stretch the business, or it may look like a lot, but you realize that the payback period when transitioning to that solar system versus even using a generating set, you would have already recouped it back within a year or less than 2 years. So yes.
Okay, so it's basically you doing your math and figuring out what works best for you, because that way you'd be able to know, okay, am I transitioning at the early stage? Is there a way I could meet myself in the middle, or even with the organization or brand that you want to use? Because yeah, I've seen several brands right now that have options where renewable energy is concerned. Some actually make an interesting case for anyone who is trying to get it. So it depends on what it is you have in your organization or your business that you need powered, and then things can align. We're going to take a quick breather. When we get back in, we'll definitely touch on then and now. What am I talking about? Well, certain people have said the prices back then were cheaper when we're getting fuel, but it was subsidized. I'd like you to think of and ponder on that. Once we get back in, we also understand how things are right now and where and how we can move and make sure that even as businesses, you aren't making a loss and you can still survive. Business Up here on Smooth 98.1.
For the best soul, R&B, jazz, and a bit of folk.
So it's just under a minute and we'll get back in.
All right, great.
Lagos wakes up to millions of dreams in motion, from early mornings on the road and markets where business never stands still. Lagosians keep pushing. Different lives, different hustles, one city. And behind it all, Lagos works for you. Show up for Lagos. If you live in Lagos, file your annual returns and pay your taxes.
To all individual taxpayers in Lagos State, you have until the 31st of March 2026 to file your annual tax returns. To file, log on to www.etax.lirs.net, enter details, file, and click submit. Filing your annual tax returns is easy, quick, and makes all the difference. File your annual income tax returns for all income received from all sources from January 1st to December 31st, 2025. Take notice that failure to file your individual income tax returns is a contravention of the extant provisions of the Nigeria Tax Administration Act NTAA 2025, which attracts administrative penalties in addition to other stiff sanctions as prescribed by the Act. For inquiries, visit www.lirs.gov.ng or call customer service on 0700 2255 5477. This message is from the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service, LIRS.
Tools and tips for a successful business. Business Hub on Smooth. Stay tuned.
All right, let's get back in. Lagos. Time to get back into the conversation. And if you are just tuned in, this is Business Hub here on Smooth 98.1. And today we're talking about how the fuel prices are affecting SME. Are you an SME? I'd love to know how the fuel prices are affecting your business. Let's get your perspective in this evening. My guest who's joining me virtually is Prosper Olusola. She's a research analyst at Afrinvest Research and Consulting. And she's been not just giving the numbers, but also breaking down things so we understand why things are the way they are. And, well, trying to seek some help and understand how SMEs as well can break in even when they are faced with certain situations. Now, before we went on a breather, what I was asking your brother, we're talking about how the previous administration, and that is the Buhari administration, prices were controlled back then. fuel queues were a thing, especially when prices were adjusted. However, we've not had that this time, and it makes me wonder, the prices, though, have gone up. What exactly is this? Why is this happening? Usually when prices go up, the amount of queues you would see, people would be so upset trying to buy this, but we don't see that even with the high prices. What exactly is the reason behind this?
Okay. So, pre Tinubu administration, that's
Right.
the President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure, we
Mhm.
observed that the oil market was one that was regulated, and then it was one that was also subsidized.
Right,
Now,
right.
what does that mean? It meant that oil marketers would have to, get oil from the international market at the international prices at higher
Mhm.
prices in dollar rates, dollar denominated, and then they come and they sell it to the Nigerian market at a subsidized rate, whereby they're selling lower. And the government then makes provisions for the remaining part of it. Now, what then now happens is that we see that these businessmen or these oil marketers are also in a business,
Oh yeah.
correct? And see that they cannot, in a sense, guarantee the rate at which or the how quickly the subsidy is going to be paid back to them for them to go into the market, get new stock, and then come back to resell. And note that they're already buying higher at higher prices in the
Mhm.
international market and coming to sell lower. So that's already a factor. And then what these oil marketers then tend to do in most cases is that they tend not to deplete all of their stock or all of their inventory all at
Mm,
once. So
right.
we then see incidences of hoarding, and then they begin to create artificial scarcity. And
Ah,
even
that's
in
what
that
it is.
scenario, you then see that a lot of motor vehicles, people that depend on this product, then go and start queuing, and also the prices of this product also goes high. So by and large, these marketers then they begin to hoard their products. They don't want to also deplete all of their inventory. How
Mhm.
are they sure, or what is the certainty of them getting back the subsidy that was what's it called, promised them? And international markets where prices have been oil is being traded is not waiting. It's a volatile one. It goes up, it comes down, and all of that. And you need money to, get more stock. So that is the case of what was happening in that period of time. Now let's fast track now to currently. We now see that
Okay.
during the President Tinubu's era, we see
Mhm.
that the oil market is now what deregulated, and then subsidy has been removed. What does
Right.
this then mean for oil marketers? Now they can now buy their products directly from the market and also sell in such a way that they mirror what is applicable, right, in the international market. And it also even provides them of opportunity on having also, put some margins such that they're able to also recoup initial cost of capital and then also make some profit. And at this point in time, there is no need to hold because it's also a competitive market. If you're deciding to hoard your product, there's someone else that's also going to come and take your market. Goes
Oh
there.
my word.
And so
So it's
it's
a
a very
dog eat
competitive
dog
market.
world.
So you see the context. It's just
Mm,
different situations, and it was different, what's it called now? Picture that was at play, dynamics at play rather
right.
in those situations. So that's what we are saying at play here.
Okay. Well, now we understand that context properly. Now let's talk about the typical SME. And you see when prices go up first, the
Mm,
effects, it has a trickle down effect. And we've seen
absolutely.
how sometimes trying to get to work, um, business owners have to spend extra than they would naturally do. Now, how would they, and I'm talking about the SMEs now, how do they manage things? Because they have staff members who are going to come. They also have other things that they are going to have to manage. Or, there's this meme that comes with the saying, Yakubu manage. Yes, indeed, they will have to manage, but how do they do that? Are they going to raise, well, are they going to raise their prices of their goods, or are they going to or are they going to increase staff salary, or are they going to cut down on staff? What do they do? How do they go about things?
Speaking from experience and also from data, we see that that the GDP or the inflation, the CPI data rather for Nigeria for the month of February was just currently released. And then what do we notice? That we see that month-on-month inflation rose over 2%. And when you juxtapose it with January's performance, you see that January it was coming from a disinflation. Now, what does this just mean? It just means that that businesses are operating in an environment, right, whereby on a monthly basis, the purchasing power of customers, it keeps reducing. And you see that the average Nigerian is very sensitive to price. And then for a business owner, cost is rising, cost of material is rising, cost of expenses is rising, and you also see cost of getting alternative energy is also rising. And ultimately, all of this comes down to, make the cost of sales for that particular business really high. So what does the business, and you see that the businessman will not also want to raise prices in such a way that it would deter
lose his
customers or potential customers from patronizing his business. And also, the businessman himself will not also want to take on the responsibility of those costs, because at the end of the day, he's also supposed to be in the business to make some form of profit.
I agree.
Now, the businessman then decides to rationalize and say, okay, how do I do this? That, okay, I pass on a little bit of the costs that I am getting to prices, and my customers still patronize me, and as well as not also take on a huge chunk of, bearing the costs of the rising costs, right? So I think that's where you now see the business owner begin to, strategize, looking for ways of, reducing costs, making sure that they don't really pass so much of the workload to the consumers, and they can also come back to, get the goods, although at a higher prices, but it's something that they can still be willing to afford. So we then begin to see some, makeshifts whereby in some cases it begins to affect, staff costs. And then the lower the staff costs ultimately can also mean lower costs generally for the business owner. So that's how I say it.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me take a message here. And this is from Gilbert Musa. Good evening to you. He says, on the effect of power on SME, it is actually obvious to transit alternate power like solar, as your guest has said. But we can take an idea of the successful rural electrification project from the Midwest from 1967 to 1995 during Gowon's regime and upgrade this noble model. However, various states should develop their independent electricity supply rather than reliance on the ineffective national grid. Well, point taken, and that is something noted. Hopefully, I think some states are already doing that, but I might be wrong. I will do my research, but thank you so much for pointing that out. Now, let's talk about something that is worthy of note, and that is seeing how a month ago President Tinubu commended the Bank of Industry for disbursing 636 billion naira to businesses in 2025. And with that, it's said to be the highest volume till date in history. Is that truly encouraging from your perspective?
Okay. Yes, I think it is an encouraging step, or it's something that is worthy of note, because when we look at the means of how SMEs are being availed the opportunity to get funded, you see that it's sort of not a very pleasant or palatable story for most of these business owners in this space. Now you look
Right.
at it that SMEs are supposed to on a good day be able to walk onto a financial institution,
Mhm.
like for a bank or a commercial bank, or that can just, they go there, they pitch their idea, they tell them, oh, this is what I have in
What I
store,
have.
this is how much I need rather, and this is how I'm going to finance this project to recoup or pay back my loan. But when we look at it, we see that from the banking's perspective, what's it called, support from here is really very low. We see that less than 15% of bank loan books are exposed to SMEs loans. And then you see that these SMEs, these businesses, they now have to rely on very informal credit sources. And then we see that these sources are mostly expensive, right? And you see that a large percentage of them are also informal. And it just really makes them, the process of them, getting funding, capital, in a way that will also be easy, because when you look at getting capital, you also look at the cost of fund, right? The interest that you would have to pay back for being lent that money. So I believe it's a step in the right direction, right? Although more can be done, but yes, it is a step in the right direction. Looking at how that for these businesses to be able to get the required funding they need,
Funding that they need.
it's always very, very tedious and exasperating for them.
Trust me, I've heard stories for days, and it can be a little exasperating when you think about it. Well, in a minute or less, what is the outlook for SME in 2026? I know we're still in March, but we still have at least some more months to go before 2026 comes to an end.
Yeah.
What's the outlook like? Good, hazy, lots to look forward to.
So the Nigerian economy, it's a resilient one. It's growing. We see that last year, our GDP numbers printed at about over 4%, right? Not 44%. And also when we look at the outlook or the projection that our GDP is supposed to print out for this year, 2026, is also looking around matching that figure, which is over 40%, 4% levels rather. So the SME, like I said, the Nigerian economy, now bringing it down to the SMEs part of things, it will continue to be resilient, because we have innovators, we have collaborators, we have originators, we have people with ingenious ideas that are looking to bring it to light. And ultimately, all of this have ways of trickling down into the overall economy. You just need there to be more consistent policies in such a way that would provide enabling environment for these businesses to thrive, right? In terms of making sure that road facilities, access facilities to and from these businesses are good.
Are accessible.
You make sure that, okay, even if you cannot provide electricity for this community or for this enterprise for the whole 24 hours, at least, okay, you provide it, maybe we say you can do 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, and then businesses are able to plan with these mechanisms, so that also they can also take a breather from the pressure of higher cost of energy in that case. So by and large, yes, the picture for this sector is one that is that I see has a lot of resilience, and that is even going to bloom in terms of in difficult times. So yes.
All right. Thank you so much for all that insight. For anyone who needs more information, how can they reach out to you on your social media handle? Did you catch that?
Oh no.
For anyone who needs more information, how can they reach out to you on your social media handle?
Okay, my LinkedIn is very much available. You just search Prosper Olusola. You find me there, or you can also reach me at Afrinvest, Afrinvest.com. My email address is p.olusola@afrinvest.com. Also on Instagram, you can also reach me, or on Instagram, on Afrinvest Instagram. Just look us up on IG. You would see us there. So you can send a direct message. You can reach out to someone to, relay your message. Definitely you get responses.
We'll take it up from there. Thank you so much for all that insight, Prosper. And Lagos, well, everything is worth it only if you put in the work. And well, the government is also looking at, making businesses realize that they're always there for them as well. So plug in where you can. On the other side of this, there's more music, and I'm going to leave you with lots to get into. By the way, Business Hub comes your way every Tuesday at 5:15, and it's always a great insight for businesses, not just small businesses, big businesses. You want to share your thoughts? You want to let us know what it is you're doing? You can always reach us and share and expand our horizon. But let's get back into the music. Rai is here to help us know how worth it our time is.
Everything business.
Thank you for your time and all the information. Trust you have yourself a pleasant evening as well.